Vesta. Vesta is the second largest object in the asteroid belt and one of the most planet-like asteroids ever studied. A world so large and geologically complex that scientists often refer to it as a protoplanet, a body that began the process of becoming a full planet but never finished. It has a layered interior with a distinct crust, mantle, and iron core, just like Earth, and its surface is covered in ancient lava flows from a period of intense volcanic activity billions of years ago. NASA's Dawn spacecraft orbited Vesta from 2011 to 2012 and revealed a world of towering mountains, deep craters, and enormous canyon systems stretching thousands of kilometers. The most dramatic feature is a crater near its south pole, called Rhea Silvia, so large that the central peak rising from its floor is taller than Mount Everest. Vesta matters because it is essentially a surviving piece of the early solar system frozen in time, offering a window into the processes that built the rocky planets, including Earth. Psyche. Psyche is unlike any other object in the solar system, an asteroid made almost entirely of metal, believed to be the exposed iron-nickel core of a protoplanet that was stripped of its outer layers by violent collisions billions of years ago. If that theory is correct, Psyche is the only place in the solar system where the interior of a planet-like body is directly accessible from the surface, the equivalent of visiting Earth's core without having to dig through thousands of kilometers of rock. NASA's Psyche spacecraft arrived at the asteroid in 2023 and began its science mission in 2024. And in early 2025, new data confirmed that the surface contains regions of exposed metal alongside silicate material, suggesting the story of how Psyche formed is more complex than a simple core remnant. Recent studies also suggested the asteroid may have experienced eruptions of molten iron and nickel on its surface, essentially iron volcanoes, a phenomenon that has never been directly observed anywhere else. Psyche is the closest thing in the solar system to a treasure chest made of metal the size of a small state. Apophis. Apophis is the asteroid that briefly terrified the world. When it was discovered in 2004, initial calculations suggested a roughly 2.7% chance it would impact Earth in 2029, the highest probability of impact ever calculated for a large asteroid in recorded history. Further observations quickly ruled out the 2029 impact, but a second potential impact date in 2036 kept scientists watchful for years before being eliminated as well. What remains is something genuinely remarkable. On April 13, 2029, Apophis will pass closer to Earth than the orbit of our own geostationary satellites, coming within about 32,000 kilometers of the surface. It will be visible to the naked eye as a moving star, the closest approach of this size asteroid in recorded history. Multiple space agencies are planning missions to study it during or just before that flyby, and ESA's Ramses mission is currently being fast-tracked to reach Apophis before its close approach. If this kind of content is what you are looking for, the subscribe button is right there. Every week, we cover one fascinating space topic exactly like this one, and you clearly belong here. Now, back to the asteroids. Bennu. Bennu is one of the most well-studied asteroids in history and the source of the largest asteroid sample ever returned to Earth. NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft spent 2 years orbiting it before briefly touching its surface in 2020 and collecting material, returning a sample capsule to Earth in September 2023 containing about 120 grams of pristine asteroid material, more than 5 times the mission's minimum requirement. What scientists found inside was extraordinary. Carbon-rich material containing water-bearing minerals and organic compounds, some of the building blocks associated with life, preserved in near-perfect condition since the formation of the solar system. Bennu itself turned out to be a rubble pile, not a solid rock, but a loose collection of boulders and dust barely held together by its own weak gravity, so loosely packed that when the spacecraft touched its surface, the material behaved almost like a liquid, with the probe sinking in before thrusters pushed it back out. Bennu also has a small but non-zero chance of impacting Earth in the late 22nd century, a risk being monitored carefully as new data from the returned sample helps refine its orbit. Cleopatra. Cleopatra is one of the strangest-looking objects in the asteroid belt, shaped exactly like a dog bone, stretching about 217 kilometers at its longest and only 94 kilometers wide in the middle, with two rounded lobes connected by a narrow neck. It is a metallic asteroid rotating once every 5 hours, and it has two small moons named Alex Helios and Clio Selene orbiting it, making it one of a surprisingly large number of asteroids known to have their own satellites. Scientists believe Cleopatra's unusual shape formed gradually as material from its surface was flung outward by its rotation and then reaccreted into the distinctive lobed structure we see today, essentially an asteroid that sculpted itself into a dog bone through the physics of its own spin. Its two moons likely formed from material that escaped during this same process, making Cleopatra a system that generated its own satellites out of its own body. Ryugu is a small near-Earth asteroid shaped like a spinning top, a flattened sphere with a distinct ridge running around its equator that formed as centrifugal force from its rotation pushed material toward the middle. Japan's Hayabusa 2 spacecraft visited it in 2018 and 2019, firing a copper impactor into its surface to create an artificial crater and collecting samples from both the surface and the freshly exposed subsurface material. The samples returned to Earth in December 2020 contained over 23 amino acids, organic molecules that are fundamental building blocks of proteins and life, including several not commonly found in meteorites recovered on Earth. This was one of the strongest pieces of evidence yet that the raw ingredients of life are distributed widely through the solar system and could have been delivered to early Earth by asteroid impacts. Ryugu's perfectly symmetrical spinning top shape also made it one of the most visually striking asteroids ever photographed up close. Chiron is an object that cannot decide what it wants to be. Discovered in 1977 and initially classified as an asteroid, then found in 1989 to have a dusty coma surrounding it like a comet, leading it to be reclassified as both simultaneously. It belongs to a class of objects called centaurs, bodies orbiting in the region between Jupiter and Neptune that are believed to be escaped Kuiper Belt objects slowly migrating inward. In 2023, astronomers confirmed that Chiron also has a ring system, making it one of a handful of non-planetary bodies known to have rings. It orbits between Saturn and Uranus in a gravitationally unstable region, meaning within a few million years, it'll likely be flung either deeper into the solar system where it will become a short-period comet, or ejected outward back into the Kuiper Belt. Chiron is the solar system's most indecisive object, an asteroid, a comet, and a ringed body all at once. Phaethon is the asteroid responsible for the Geminid meteor shower, one of the most spectacular meteor showers of the year, producing up to 120 meteors per hour in December, which makes it unique because meteor showers are almost always associated with comets, not asteroids. Phaethon orbits the Sun on an extremely elongated path that brings it closer to the Sun than any named asteroid, reaching temperatures of around 750 degrees Celsius at closest approach, hot enough to cause its surface to crack and shed material even without the ice-driven activity of a comet. Scientists believe it may be an extinct or dormant comet core that has exhausted its ice, leaving behind a rocky body that still sheds debris through thermal fracturing rather than sublimation. Japan's Destiny Plus mission is currently en route to Phaethon for a close flyby planned in the late 2020s, which should finally reveal whether this strange hybrid object is an asteroid pretending to be a comet or something else entirely. 2025 MN45 is the fastest spinning asteroid ever confirmed for an object of its size, discovered by the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in spring 2025, and found to complete a full rotation every 1.88 minutes. To put that in perspective, most main belt asteroids take hours or days to complete one rotation. At that speed, the asteroid should fly apart. Loose rubble pile asteroids spin apart at rotations faster than about 2.2 hours. Yet 2025 MN45 is 710 meters across and holding together perfectly. The only explanation is that it is made of solid rock with a cohesive strength similar to granite, not the loose rubble pile structure most asteroids of this size turn out to have. It was one of 19 ultra-fast rotating asteroids discovered during Rubin's first look event, suggesting that extremely fast solid rock asteroids are far more common in the asteroid belt than previously thought. 2024 YR4. 2024 YR4 became the most discussed asteroid in years when it was discovered in late 2024, and initial calculations gave it a roughly 3.1% chance it would impact Earth in 2032. Briefly, the highest impact probability ever recorded for a potentially hazardous asteroid in recorded history. Follow-up observations in early 2025 ruled out the Earth impact, but revealed something unexpected: a roughly 4% chance it could instead hit the Moon. If that impact occurs, it would produce a crater several kilometers wide and a bright flash potentially visible from Earth with the naked eye, the first observed asteroid impact on the Moon in human history. Further observations are ongoing, and the probability continues to be refined, but 2024 YR4 has already served a valuable purpose. It was the first real-world test of Earth's planetary defense tracking systems, and the speed and accuracy with which scientists characterize its orbit demonstrated that the monitoring network built over the past 2 decades is working exactly as intended.